Good morning. Thank you for joining me today for the DocuSmart Revolution Tune workflow. I'm completely stuffing this already. Thank you for joining me. My name is Alison. Thank you. And today we're going to be going through the DocuSmart Revolution workflow with Hayden and Raylene, who I'll kick over to soon. The Toyota and Revolution project has been at the forefront of what we've been striving towards for our dealers. And today we are proud partners with Toyota and Revolution in our certified integration with our archiving and payable solution. We have around 40 dealers today looking at this, the AP solution, and we have another 25 already signed and ready to go. So we're really excited of what we've built and what we are delivering back to the industry, and really excited to show you how that workflow will exist in the environment and how that will be able to be used within your business. So before I kick over to Raylene and Hayden for housekeeping, any questions that you have, please place into the right side of the box. Either myself or one of our team members will come back to you personally to answer those questions. And if you choose to have a one-on-one demo after this, then we'll be able to structure that for you. I'll pass this over to Raylene and Hayden now and be able to show you the solution and the DocuSmart side and how it all flows. And then I'll join you once they are done. Thanks.
Thank you, Alison, and welcome everybody to the world of DocuSmart. I'm Raylene Checkon. I am an installation consultant and an expert in the world of DocuSmart.
And my name's Hayden Robinson. I'm a development manager here looking after the DocuSmart products.
Thank you, everyone. I will be going through a demonstration of the payables section today. So let's start off here. And this is our landing page where we have different what we call instances, which are divisions or company names. So we've got Hub 2. So I'm going to go into Hub 2. This is our landing page. So when we come in here, we've got all our invoices that have come into the system. We have statuses that we use. So if I come in here, I'll show you the whole statuses. So awaiting verification is an invoice that's been put through to DocuSmart for the first time and ready for processing. Once we've allocated it to a manager, it goes to awaiting approval. Partial approved is an invoice that's going to go to two managers. The first manager has processed and we're waiting for the second manager to process it. Rejected is twofold. Number one, it can be rejected by a manager. Say they don't want the invoice paid, and they can reject it back to AP. Second rejection is a system rejection that might say the invoice has already been processed, so it comes back as a duplicate invoice. Pending is like your bottom problem tray. So you can park an invoice in there until you want to take an action on an invoice. Escalated, we have 2 points of escalation. Number one is everybody has an amount that they're allowed to process an invoice for. So if they, if they approve an invoice above that amount, it will go to their escalation manager, who will see that it's above their limit. And if it's a true and correct cost, he can then approve the invoice. The second one is a time escalation, and we use this to keep the system rolling. So we have 2 days as a follow-up email. If you don't do it, on the third day, it leaves and they still haven't done it, it'll leave the queue and go to that same escalation manager who now has to approve the invoices. Auto PO linked, we can link suppliers to a purchase order. So if the purchase order is raised for the correct amount, including GST, and supplied to the supplier, and the supplier puts it on the invoice and the invoice is the correct amount, we can match them all up and it'll auto-populate. Auto-verified, behind that, we have a manager, we have amounts, and we can also have allocation templates. If everything gels within that, we can also auto-verify to a manager to approve. Automation failed is simply auto PO linked to auto verified. The rulings are not met, and automation failed is literally the same as awaiting verification. It means we now have to manually go through and allocate that invoice for approval.
So all these statuses that you see here and all these different states, everything are available in no matter what data management system you're using, whether it's Tune or Apparel, whatever it happens to be. So that includes all the automation statuses, and the screens you'll see are the same.
Okay, thanks, Hayden. Excuse me. I will pick an invoice. Okay. And it'll populate. We're a little bit slow at the moment. So we have this is our processing screen. So up the top left, we've got the copy of the invoice. On the top right, we have who we're paying, what we're paying, and which particular general ledger it's going to go to for the trade creditors. This information is just information for you. It shows you the purchase order amount and who raised the purchase order. We also have the bank details showing, so you can then verify against the invoice. I'm just going to go back and I am going to have a look at picking one of these up. That's better. Okay, so if we had a purchase order, it would populate the purchase order number here and allocate all the details down the bottom here. If we don't have a purchase order, that's fine. We can still keep coming through. We can process both purchase orders and non-purchased order invoices. If we start tabbing down, we have optical character recognition, or known as OCR. And as I come down, you can see it's picking up the invoice number. It's picking up the date. This date here is the date that it posts to your DMS. And this is the due date on the invoice. And that is dependent upon what rulings you have for your supplier. It'll then pick up the exclusive GST price and also the GST. So it now matches the invoice totally. Now you've noticed here that it's picked up the wrong area for the actual GST. So if I'm in here and I click on this, it'll now populate the details. And it's also teaching the program that for this invoice to pick up the GST from here. So once you've done a few invoices, it automatically knows that I now pick this file up for the GST. Once it's all populated, we can come through, and down here we've got our general ledger, we've got our description, our money amounts, any control number that might be. So if this is controlled, like this is a freight invoice and it's got to be a cost against an inventory, we can put the stock number in. And then who we're going to approve it to. Once we're happy with all those details, we can simply go verify, and that starts an email bank in the background that will send all the approval invoices to the approvers at 11 o'clock and 4 o'clock every day. So they only get 2 a day, so it's not in their face.
So what you're seeing on the screen here is the same as for Tune, the same as you see for Era Power and any other systems we're integrating. With Tune, we do have some extra information we're going to show you on the charging lines, but we'll show you those a bit later on.
Okay. Down here, we can add a line if we had to. Okay, we can delete a line, or we can even copy a line. So if you want all the information, the same people going here, then all we've got to do now is choose the different general ledger. I choose the right one. This time I want to choose service, and I can go tab along here. Once it's all done, we can then again verify. Now you can also have your users being a verifier approver, which means that if they're allowed, they can have an approve button and approve an invoice as well. So thus speeding up the differences of not having the emails going out to managers. We can delete if the invoice is there's something wrong and we want to do it again. From up the top here, you can email the invoice to yourself, or if you've got a query, you can email the invoice out from here to a manager asking a question like, i.e., what's the stock number? And they can let you know the stock number, and then you'll be able to process the invoice. In that case, that's where our pending comes in. We could park the invoice. So if I go pending, up will come here, and I could say waiting on stock number, and then go okay, and it'll go into the pending. When I get the stock number, I pick it up from pending. It's now live, and I just come down the bottom and put in the stock number, and then I can process it. I have a save button. So if I wanted to save this information, I can hit save and it'll go back to the front screen, saving that information I've just put in. We also have what's called allocation templates. These are rather good. I like these. These are allocations of percentages against different things. So a rent invoice, for example, we might have it percentaged across all the departments. And of course, we could go department by franchise, depending how you do it. So we can split up those percentages and it automatically does it. So if I choose the rent run, for example, I go yes, it's now, as you can see, has split the exclusive price and the GST. And it's all done that split for us. And again, we can just go verify and it goes out to the manager. behind here. If we needed to get to a different hub, we can just simply come across here. Under behind here, we have our invoices. Our invoices is what we're looking at now. So that's our processing screen. We bring across all the supplier details into here. We can go into any of them. Let's find that one I'll do. And then again, we can start to put automation. We can start to help less keystrokes for the AP clerks. So we can put a default general ledger. If it's going to go to one general ledger only, we can put that general ledger in. We can also choose who's going to be the default manager for the person who's going to approve that. So every time an invoice comes in, we can now, it'll automatically put this number on this, on the bottom lines where we're allocating it for the expenses and also the approver. Now we can also change that number when we're in there. It's still available to be edited. So it's not hard stone. It's going to have to be that general ledger number and it's going to have to be that approver. We can also, again, set up one of our allocation templates. So again, from the supplier, when it reads the supplier, it goes through, has a look at the rulings that are on the supplier, and will allocate and split according to that allocation template. And we can also turn on PO linking if we want to. Auto bypass, we can set on auto bypass. So for the tune dealers, that's very, very useful for all your parts and service sublets that are what I'll class as one-stepped. So they're processed within service and they're processed within parts. So we can set that on so they just go straight through to archive without coming into the DMS. If you are like this and it keeps on struggling, we've got a little hamburger up here that has them nicely set on the screen, so we can do that. With the departments, we can see the departments, and it's got accounting. We would have parts, service, new vehicle, or parts, service and showroom, or whatever types of departments you have within the DMS. You can see who is allowed to verify an invoice, so who is allowed to process an invoice, and who is allowed to approve an invoice. And if they appear in both columns, they're allowed to be a verifier approver. So it means they can process the invoice and approve it straight through without sending it to a manager. Reporting, we have a reporting tab whereby I am just going to deselect and I am going to go posted and I am going to go, where is my approved? I'm just going to take out the dates in here and then go search and I get all of these here. So if I click on the little button, I can now see the general ledger, where it was allocated to, what department, the GST amount, who actually was the approving person, any purchase order, all the details regarding that invoice for payment. We can also export this as an Excel spreadsheet as well. Again, I'll use my hamburger. We have our allocation templates that I spoke about. We can also send out the emails individually to somebody outside those two designated times of 10 and 4, or 11 and 4, I should say. So we, at end of month, this is very handy because you can choose one, send it, pick up the phone, say, hey, I need you to approve the invoices that I've just sent you, so we can close off our end of month. Now, if I come back to the invoices, these up and down little arrows, we can also sort A to Z, Z to A. So again, rolling over into a new month, you can actually sort them by the oldest invoice that's in there, which means that you can keep processing all of the last month's invoices until you get to the new month invoices. Or you can, if you wanted to, you could search by a person that you've got applied to if you've sent it out. So if I go Manager B, that's space B, yep. Okay, we can see that we've got one partially approved for Manager B. So you can search by different statuses in here too. You can also, you don't have to have everything in your face, so I can deselect. On a daily basis, I'd come in the morning, first thing I do when I turn on is go rejected, click on rejected, and go search, and then I go, okay, I've got these invoices that have issues, work through the issues, then come back in here. I'll then have a waiting verification on and my auto links. And that will be my statuses for the day. So I now know that all of these invoices are the live invoices for me to process. If I wish to see anything else, I can then come in here and I can go clear, and then I can start to work out if I wanted to see any of the others. And again, I can come in here. If I've got anything pending, I can just pick pending. There's my pending. So I now Star Track, I know I'm going to process. I can simply pick on it. It's now live. I can do whatever changes I wanted. And again, approve or verify, and around we go. If for some reason you have processed an invoice in your DMS, like in Tune, and you want it to be in archive, but of course we can't process it in here, because if we did, it'd come back as a rejected invoice because it's already been processed. We can hit bypass. So with bypass, we need to make sure we have the right supplier name and number, the right invoice number, the right invoice date, and the right invoice amounts, and then we hit bypass. So now that will be sitting in archive where we can search for it at a later date. If we needed to put a comment on here to send out to somebody, we can simply put comments in here, add it, and it will add it here. Everything that we touch within DocuSmart is time, date, and user defined. So we've got an audit trail of everything. So every time we touch. So if I was to touch and I was to change the date, I was to change the general ledger, I was to change the amounts, it would tell me that I have changed every one of those details. So we're totally audit trail driven. So that's all our buttons along here that we've got. Okay, we can go previous, you can go next, as I've said, we can go back to the invoices, come in here, we can simply clear, get all our invoices, and you can choose whichever invoice to go into. These ones that are blank, basically what it means is that it hasn't been able to find or recognise the ABN number with your suppliers, so it hasn't picked it up. But that doesn't mean we can't put it in here. Perfect, okay. Perfect towing service, if it was that, it's not this one, but if it was in here, we can choose it. I've discovered that companies don't actually tell you when they change ABN numbers. So what I've found with this program is that a lot of people haven't updated ABN numbers within their suppliers for the simple reason that we don't know what we don't know, because we're not looking at the ABN number on every invoice. We've had them for 6 years and they're just our supplier. So what you do is, if you need to update any information, like you need to update the bank details or you need to update the ABN, you always do it in your DMS. So we pull across from the DMS information, we pull across all the purchase order details, we pull across all your general ledgers. As far as Tune goes, we pull across the tax codes as well, and cost centre information. And we push back all of the approved invoices. So it's a pulls and push, and there's timings that we set these to be done automatically in the background. So that's pretty well it for DocuSmart. Okay, if you'd like any more information or a more in-depth demonstration, please contact Alison, and she will get in contact with our experts that will get in contact with you, and also put details in our chat so that we have your contact details to be able to follow up. Thank you. Hayden, I'll hand over to you now so you can do the Tune.
So I'm going to quickly take you through the differences that we've been doing for Tune specifically with the Tune integrations. So what Raylene's actually shown you is pretty much what we've got set up for most of our other dealerships and other integrations like Era Power. For Tune itself, we have one of our setups here for them. Basically, everything Raylene's shown you around all the different options for the suppliers, departments, reporting, all that information is exactly the same. It all works the same way. When you go to some of the invoices, again, you'll see the same information. On the headers, you can put your purchase orders in, link those through that come through from Tune. The main differences for Tune compared to the other systems are we use cost centers, tax codes, and we also have the reference fields. Those who've seen in Tune, you'll have your reference 1 and reference 2 field information against you, which you can now set against each of our charging lines in here. When we pull the information through from Tune, the cost centers can be linked to general ledgers. So what we do in DocuSmart is when we pull that information through, is we actually link those two together. So when you've picked your general ledger, let's pick one. When you come to choose your cost center is now restricted to just those that have been linked to that general ledger within Tune. So this is going to minimize any like coding errors you're doing whilst you're trying to process the invoice. If you did send one through with the wrong cost center on it, Tune would reject it, and it's just going to take you guys more time to go and fix those issues. Again, if we pick a different general ledger, for example, that's fine. Again, you can see the cost centers have changed. If there are no cost centers linked in Tune, if you've not linked any of them like that, then what will happen is you'll be able to pick any cost center that you want to from that list. Again, carrying on through the charging lines, just filling in the information. Again, it's the same information. Tax codes, these have all come through from Tune itself. So again, you can pick whichever tax code you're interested in. And then the same with other fields. Over here, we have the reference 1 and reference 2 fields. So these are basically like free text fields where you can enter in any information you want to. In Tune, these can be tied against each general ledger, so they can have different meanings depending on which general ledger you selected. And the information that you need for that general ledger, you type in, you can specify that into Tune. When you come through in DocuSmart, if you haven't actually put the information on the reference 1 and reference 2 for that particular general ledger, or you're not sure what to put into it, you can leave them blank, and then just when you hit the verify, you'll actually get an information error saying you haven't actually put the information in. So here it's saying the charging line needs a reference 1 value, which is going to be the customer name, and the reference 2, it needs a stock number. So the wording for customer and stock number, all those descriptions, that's all come through from Tune, whatever's been entered into Tune. So again, it's stopping you from doing coding errors and stopping you from having rejections coming back from Tune when you come to do this information. So those are the main changes we have from Tune compared to the other systems like Era Power. When you do your purchase orders, if you link a purchase order onto an invoice as well, the purchase orders will typically come through with cost centers, and they'll come through with tax codes. So these will automatically be populated on your charging lines as well for you. The only other change we have as well is on when you're doing auto verify. So we've added an extra rule in here to say that when you're doing the auto verification, DocuSmart will go through and check each of the charging lines. If those charging lines, you have a GL that's requiring values to be entered for the reference 1 and reference 2 fields, then automation is going to fail. And you'll see the reason come up in the comments history to say that someone's got to manually enter those values for the reference 1 and reference 2 fields. So that's pretty much the summary of what's different between Tune and some other integrations. I'll just hand you back to Raylene to go through Archive.
Thanks, Hayden. We have an archive repository, and we have here, as you can see, you've got accounts payable. We have our invoices, and if we go enter, we'll get a copy of all our invoices. So these invoices automatically come in as soon as they're scanned into DocuSmart, a copy goes through to Archive. And as I was saying with the statuses, within Archive, we can see that they come in awaiting verification, and they roll through all the different types of statuses until they end at a status called posted, and then we know that that means it's left the DocuSmart and gone back to your DMS. We can have a look at the invoice, the Adobe, and we can just click on it and it'll give us a copy of the invoice. It comes up with a file number. We can come back to it and we can choose another one. If we wish to have a look at another one, we just simply pick on it. Now, to make it easy, I can tick this little box so it's nice and blue so I can see which one I'm looking at. So when I scroll across, I can see the invoice detail. Once I've picked this, you can see all these little boxes up here are actually ungrayed. So if I undo it, you can see they're grey, undo it again. So now I can, if I want to, I can download this invoice and put it on my desktop. I can send it via an email. I can add an email address. Oops. Raylene. subject, copy invoice. And we have to put something in the body of the email because this is to stop suspicious mail and going into spam. So I can put copy invoice in again there. Or if I wanted to, I just put a dot in there. And then I can go send. Now that'll say it says attach the invoice to it and off it's gone. Now I could pick 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 and I can send them to the email. I could pick them all. If I come up here and pick them all, why didn't it do that? There we go. I can pick everything and then I can also export this and I can export it to an Excel or I can export it as a PDF file. We have the comment history, total comment history of the invoice from where it lands in DocuSmart right through with everything. So it's been rejected. It'll have the rejection details. If it's been escalated, everything's there. And then it leaves saying it has left the EPR and gone back to your DMS.
So that's what you see in the comments history when you're viewing the invoice directly within Payables itself. You get the same information shown here too.
Yes. The difference being in here is that you would see approved and the final expiration. Right, yeah. Yes. These details are exactly what we would see in the comments here. When an invoice is live in DocuSmart until it is actually approved, and at the approver's status, that's when it actually leaves DocuSmart. It's still in archive until it's pushed back to the DMS, where it's then it goes to posted. Now we have pulls and pushes, as I said. We pull across all the purchase orders into Payables, and we do that about every half hour. We pull the supplier information across every morning at 1 o'clock in the morning, mainly because it's a large file and we've got to slot details in. So we do it out of working hours. We pull across all your, as I said, your general ledger details. We pull across all the purchase order information every 5 minutes. And we push back the invoices, the processed invoices, every 5 minutes back into here. So as it loops around every 5 minutes, and if there are any approved invoices, it'll push them through the DMS and change it to posted.
If you do get rejection back from Tune, you'll actually get the rejection reason coming through in the comments, and that'll be the whole list of every single reason why that invoice got rejected from Tune itself. So when you go back into the invoice in Payables, you'll get to see all the specific reasons why Tune rejected it, allowing you to then fix it up and then repost it again.
That's right. That's really about all in archive. Archive's very simple. As I said, it's where we're keeping them, so we're able to keep an electronic copy of the invoice. But if we need to print it, as I said, we can just simply tick one, and then we can download it to we can download the file to our desktop, and then we can print it from there. So I've got it here. If I look in here, I can see the document and I'll be able to download it onto the desktop. Vice versa, you can actually pull it up here, and you will be connected to your printers and things, so you'll be able to print it from here too. There's no printer on our terminal, so I can't print it from here, but you can still download it from here as well, or you can print it direct. And there endeth archive, which is nice and simple.
It's a very simple program, yeah. Very powerful. Simple.
Okay. All right. Again, if anybody has any questions, please pop them in the chat, and Alison and our team will attend to them and look at answering anything that you've got. So I'd like to thank you for your time today.
Thank you for your time, yeah, be good.
And wish you all the best in the world of DocuSmart.